Today, we are going to explain the market of illegal goods, especially drug trafficking, basing our work on the thesis of Gary Becker. Nowadays, it is estimated that 1 in 20 adults between the ages of 15 and 64 have at least used one drug, which is roughly the equivalent of the combined populations of Germany, France, United Kingdom, and Italy, which add up to almost 276 million people. However, as we can see from the graph, drug consumption does not seem to have grown over the past 4 years in proportion to the global population. From the economic point of view, the World Drug Report of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime showed that the social cost derived from the drug market fluctuated between the 0.07% and 1.7% of the gross domestic product of the examined countries. Also, in most of these countries, it was observed that a high percentage of total cost corresponded to interventions from the government in order to reduce demand and supply of drugs, and not to the loss of productivity and other indirect costs. In his thesis, Gary Becker studies the market of illegal goods, using illegal drugs as a prominent example. In his paper, he considers the cost of reducing consumption of a good by making its production illegal and punishing illegal producers. According to the law of demand, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. This reduction of the quantity demanded depends on the elasticity of demand. If the demand is very elastic, then a small reduction in price will cause a high increase in the quantity demanded. This is a good solution if the product represented in the market is a legal one. However, it is not the case in the market of illegal goods, such as illegal drug trafficking. In this market, the demand is very inelastic due to the addiction of the consumers. Then, a big increase in price will cause a small decrease in the quantity demanded, as the willingness of the consumers to pay is almost unlimited. According to Gary Becker's theory, there are two options through which we can tackle this issue. On one hand, we have legalization. On the other, illegalization. The first would be assured through taxation, and the second through punishment. A monetary tax could cause a reduction in quantity demanded and a great increase in price. Independently from being an elastic or an inelastic demand, there would be a decrease in the government expenditure. The most used method to reduce consumption is enforcement, which cuts consumption by raising the cost of suppliers. The risk of imprisonment or other punishments leads to higher prices, therefore to lower consumption. But if demand is inelastic, like the demand of drugs, then higher prices lead to an increase in total spending of these illegal goods and a small increase in consumption. Furthermore, an increase in price will cause a positive reaction from the suppliers, who will produce even more drugs due to higher profits. So, optimal public expenditure on apprehension and conviction of illegal suppliers depend not only on the difference between the social and private values from consumption, but also on this elasticity. Was Gary Becker right? As the demand is inelastic, many countries heavily affected by drugs eventually decided to decriminalize them in order to face the problem. While many predictions defended an increase of drug addiction, in practice, countries such as Uruguay and Portugal proved them wrong. Portugal, in 2001, became the first European country to officially abolish all criminal penalties for personal possession of drugs. As a consequence of this, drug-related deaths in Portugal are now the second lowest in the EU. Just 3 in a million people die of overdoses here, compared with the EU average of 17.3 per million. Uruguay became the first country in the world to legalize and regulate the production, marketing, and consumption of cannabis. The state would enforce control the entire cannabis industry chain, from production to consumption. Prohibition has proven to have little benefit and a long list of negative side effects. It generates violence, an increase of black markets, civil liberties infringements in form of warrantless searches and the unnecessary incarceration of thousands, and also a government waste of resources in police and prisons. By allowing a controlled production and selling in pharmacies, there would not be any risk in producing this good. Therefore, prices would decrease, making people more attracted to buying this controlled drug and consuming the limited production offered by the government. It would not just reduce the illegal market of drugs, but also its consumption. Gary Becker's theory can be proven by analyzing two market graphs, one before and one after applying a tax. In the second one, we can observe that both consumer and producer surplus decrease, whilst the tax revenue is created. This means that legislation through taxation causes the government to receive more money. So, what do we think? As Becker's economic approach says, we suggest the legalization of drugs combined with an indirect tax on the good. This would be a cheaper and more effective option than prohibition in the pursuit of diminishing drug consumption.